嗨，欢迎来到 flowwithkatie 凯蒂瑜伽。今天是一个特别的企划，然后其实一直很想要找个时间跟大家聊聊天，然后就是聊关于瑜伽所有值得探索的一切。对，希望这个聊天更有深度，然后所以我就是邀请了特别来宾来进行今天的一个 interview 的访谈，希望可以让大家了解，除了瑜伽是一个体位法上的练习之外，它还有更多层面的东西，然后值得我们去深入的探讨。好，现在心情有点紧张，因为就是我本来这个计划是摆在明年度才要进行，前2个礼拜前，然后就写了一封信给我的 teacher training 的老师，然后就是 Adarsh 老师，然后问他说他大概什么时候会来台湾，然后于是他就是很快速的回了我的信，然后跟我说就是他12月初就会来台湾，非常快速的就是约了今天的行程，然后就要跟大家分享就是很多关于瑜伽的事。就是我本身英文没有到非常好，为了求公信力，邀请了一个专业的翻译，然后也是我的瑜伽好朋友来跟我们一起就是进入今天的访谈。好，谢谢他，那就希望大家喜欢今天的节目咯。就是我们今天可以邀请到Adarsh老师，然后来进行今天的 interview。Hi, say hello.
Hello.
然后我们今天准备了10个问题，然后在开始之前啊，我想就是应该蛮多练 Ashtanga Yoga 的同学们都有认识Adarsh老师，那但是应该还是有一些同学并不是那么了解他，但我知道今天的访问结束之后，大家应该会对他有更多的熟悉跟更多的了解。那我今天准备的问题就是。因为我英文不是很好，所以我会拿这张纸来问他，他应该不介意吧 ？OK， 那就开始咯。好 ，Number 1 How long have you been practicing yoga? How did you start practicing yoga?
Okay, I've been practicing yoga for over 20 years now. I began yoga as a teenager. It originally for me began because I think at the time I had a lot of anxiety in my life, a lot of insomnia, so I had trouble sleeping. So I began yoga originally as just a sleeping practice. I learned how to relax my body, and I learned how to sleep, basically. And that made a big difference for me. And I think the most important thing is that I learned that yoga was actually something that could work as long as I practiced it. A few years later, I discovered Ashtanga yoga, and that created a whole other change for me. So I've been practicing Ashtanga yoga for 20 years now. This is actually my 20th year practicing Ashtanga. And at first I was quite stiff, my body was very tight, but after 6 months of practice, I was amazed at how quickly it changed. I was very lucky that I was able to go to India and practice directly with Sri Joyce. Now, passed away, master of Ashtanga yoga. But I was able to stay in Mysore, India for 2 years, and I was able to stay there and practice every day with Tata Joyce and his grandson, Sharad. So it's a really valuable experience for me.
Number 2. What does yoga mean to you? How does yoga connect to our influence in life?
Well, yoga for me is really a philosophy of life. Not only is there a physical practice of yoga postures, which is of course the stretching and the movement, but it's also a breathing practice and it's a meditative practice. So yoga for me has a very practical aspect in that every day I wake up and I practice, right? But there's other experiences of yoga that I have throughout the day. For example, relationships, just how I relate to normal people who I meet. Part of the practice is being more patient with others, practicing kindness, practicing compassion, things like that. So yoga is a total philosophy. I always think of yoga as like a technology. It's like an iPhone, that anyone can pick up an iPhone, they can swipe, and they can begin using the iPhone. So a yoga technology means that anyone can use it. No matter their background, anything. it doesn't matter. Like the iPhone, anyone can really use yoga. And depending on what your goals are, right? Yoga has many different applications, just like the phone. You can use the yoga strictly for a physical practice, as many people do, or you can use it for a spiritual practice, as I do.
Number 3, what recommendation do you have for people who hope to improve their yoga practice or asana?
Right. Well, I think the standard recommendation is to just practice. Our Guru is very famous for saying that practice, and all is coming. And I agree with that. And not only practicing, right? We can't just do it by rote repetition. We have to practice with a lot of care and intelligence. But if we're willing to take time and practice with a lot of patience and care, it will certainly improve. For me, one of the main lessons is to keep my expectations very low in terms of improving my asanas. Some days are going to be easy, some days are going to be really flowing, and I'll feel quite strong on the mat, but other days are not so great. For example, I recently traveled to Taiwan, and a long journey is hard on the body. So the day that I arrived here, I wanted to start my practice, and I was so tired. And there was no way that I was going to get through a 2-hour yoga practice, but I just put my mat down and I did the little bit that I could. And even though I was really tired during the practice, I felt better afterwards. And then the next day I practiced again and I felt even better. So I think of every day as just making small improvement, even though sometimes it feels like I'm sliding backwards. The improvement is not always something that the outside person can see. It doesn't mean that I'm stretching more deeply into my position. Usually it means the internal experience, I'm having more joy and having more fun. The main recommendation that I have for people is to make the practice something they look forward to, right? Not something that they feel guilty if they don't practice or they feel that they have to do it, but something that they look forward to. So for me, yoga is like that cup of coffee in the morning. Is something that I want to have and enjoy. So I think people who are able to really enjoy their practice are the ones that are most likely able to do it for the long term. And that's what really makes the difference. Yoga is not something that, even though we can have some short-term benefit, ultimately the benefits of yoga come through a lifetime of practice.
Number 4, how important is self-practice? How do you plan and arrange your self-practice? Could you give us some advice on how to keep or maintain self-practice?
Yeah, self-practice is really crucial. I think sometimes when we're going to a yoga class, it can actually be a distraction. In a yoga class, sometimes we're following the teacher, we're kind of watching and seeing what they're doing. And we're not really feeling so much what we're doing ourselves, and I think that can actually be a problem. Especially if you are a yoga teacher, I think it's really important to develop your own practice. Routine is really critical, and establishing like a daily schedule for yourself. I'll tell you a story. Many years ago, I traveled to India and I went to see a very famous guru there, really like a spiritual teacher. And I was expecting that when she came to speak, I was expecting that she would give a big spiritual talk that would be something that was really about God and the universe. But instead, she said the most important aspect of a spiritual practice is to make a schedule. So for me, one of the reasons Ashtanga really works is that it's a schedule. I have a daily routine. I know exactly what I'm going to do every time I step on the mat. So even though by nature I'm not a very routine person, I really try to establish routine in my life. So every morning when I wake up, I know what I'm doing. I have a short preparatory practice that I do, that is my meditation and my breathing. And then I have my asana practice. And like I said, it's not always perfect, but at least I know what to do. So I know how it begins, I know what the middle part is, and I know what the ending part is. So that helps to prime my system for the rest of the day. So that as I go through life, I'm generally more patient, I'm generally more happy, and I can face the world with a better attitude than if I did not have that self-practice. So I would say my main advice for people is to set a timetable, like a schedule for the practice. If possible, set aside some space, either in their home or maybe they have a yoga studio that they go to. But to have a dedicated space that's just for that practice. Even if you live in a small apartment, maybe you have one corner of the room that's set up so that you know that that's going to be your practice space. And that's very important because when you see that space, you're going to return to it. You'll know that that's my place for doing yoga. That way there's less distractions.
IG?
Yeah.